First of all, we will be recording this program for future broadcast on our YouTube channel. But don't worry, we have the settings set up so that it only records those of us who are unmuted and speaking into the microphone. So you will not be part of that recording and saved to posterity. Please do make use of the chat box at any time in the evening that you have any questions. You can ask your questions there, and I will save them up and pose them for you at the end of the night. And then last of all, before I introduce our guest this evening, a thank you to all of you feels very important. As many of you know, this has been a long, hard year for independent businesses, independent bookstores in particular. We've lost a lot of them around the country. We're still here. We're still able to put on programs like this, and that's thanks to your continuing support, for your choice to shop local and to shop with us. So we really thank you for that ongoing support. It means the world to us. Tonight, I am so very pleased to welcome Cuong Lu to Northshire Live to talk about his new book, Wait, A Love Letter to Those in Despair. He is a Buddhist teacher ordained by Thich Nhat Hanh at Plum Village. He served as a monk for 16 years and now teaches in the Netherlands, where he lives with his wife and 3 children. A former prison chaplain, he's the author of The Buddha in Jail, Restoring Lives, Finding Hope and Freedom. He will be interviewed tonight by Chris Morrow, the co-owner of Northshire Bookstore. Chris grew up in the bookstore, which started when he was 9 years old, and spearheaded the opening of Northshire's second location in Springs. He studied environmental studies at Oberlin College and has a master's in natural resources from the University of Michigan. Before getting involved in the bookstore full-time, he was a Peace Corps volunteer in Thailand and a trainer of Peace Corps volunteers in Nepal. Please join me in welcoming Cuong Lu and Chris Morrow.
Thank you.
Well, welcome. We should also mention that Cuong is in the Netherlands, so it's almost midnight, or it is midnight there. So thank you for staying up late for us. We appreciate it. Maybe we can start by you telling us a little bit about your life and how you ended up at Plum Village.
I was born in 1968 in the Vietnam War, 1968, in a small town, Nha Trang, in the middle of Vietnam. And the war was going on, and the baby was born, and the baby didn't notice that the violence of the war was entering his body and his mind. I didn't know that. So when my father and my family decided to leave the country, and until that time I lived totally in ignorance. It means I didn't recognize the violence and the war in my body and in my mind, in my soul. We came to Holland. And I remember one time I wanted to have a fight with a Dutch friend, because I used to have fight with my friends in Holland, and I thought it was normal because that's what I saw in my own country. You know, we even enjoy fighting as a game. I thought it's normal. And at one point, a Dutch friend looked at me and he said, "Cuong, we are friends, we don't fight." And I was totally surprised, you know. I was 12 years old. I have never heard anything like that before in my life. Can you imagine that? So for the first time, I recognized the violence, the war inside of me. And the question of why I came to Plum Village to become a monk under the guidance of Thich Nhat Hanh, this because I met him in 1987. And I look at him, I was surprised for the second time of my life, because I saw a man without in the war, without a fight. I've never seen a Vietnamese like that before. It's really very special moment. I look at him and wow, that is possible. Peace, you know, I noticed the peacefulness in the mind of Thich Nhat Hanh. And I also noticed another thing. He has found himself, and I didn't know who I was. He was himself, Thich Nhat Hanh, peacefully and being himself. I've never seen something like that before. So I discovered two problems. The first one, I have an inner war fighting inside of me. The second one is I didn't know who I was. So I decided to become a monk under the guidance of this amazing Zen master, Thich Nhat Hanh.
And how old were you when you?
25th. I was
25.
25 when I became a monk. I came to Holland when I was 12 years old.
Right. So can you tell us some of your memories of Thich Nhat Hanh and his teaching?
He taught me to touch the peace, to kiss the earth with my feet and combining with my mindful breathing. And I enjoy the practice very much. We call that walking meditation. It's a beautiful practice. So every morning I woke up and I practice the practice of walking peacefully. So he told us we only have one way to walk. That is walking with the practice of meditation. That was when I became a novice, a monk. Mm-hmm. And I still remembered in my first year, one time I practiced walking, and at a certain moment, I could let go of everything, all of my thinking. I was completely free from my thinking. So that was my very deep experience I have with peace, being free of all thinking. But after that, it came back. It was a problem. So I continued to practice. I did my best to practice. And the second teaching he told us was the teaching of interbeing. He taught us interbeing. So I am you, you are me. And he told me many times. I still remember the last time he said to me before I left my Plum Village, because after 16 years I left Plum Village, and I will tell you why. Even before I left, he still looked at me. He said, if you look at the other one, you see yourself. If you look at the other one, you see yourself. And I didn't understand his teaching. I didn't understand. So it was quite difficult for me, because after 16 years practicing diligently the practice of mindfulness and trying to understand the teaching of interbeing, I couldn't end the war within me. 16 years. And I didn't find myself. At that time, I was a monk, and so people listened to my Dharma talk, to my sharing about how to practice, how to be peaceful, but I was not peaceful. Even I tried very hard. So after 16 years, I made the very difficult decision. I wanted to stop. I wanted to stop. Didn't want to go on like that anymore, being a monk and talking about peace. And you don't have peace inside of you. I didn't find myself, and I couldn't stop the war in me. So being in despair, I left my teacher. I left Plum Village, and I returned to Holland. And one night, in my deepest suffering, I woke up at 2 o'clock, and suddenly I understood. Yes, and I understood who I was. I've been trying for 16 years. I couldn't understand, and I gave up. In my despair, in my frustration, I understood. And for the first time, I saw myself. In that night, I saw you too, Chris. When you see yourself, when you discover your true self, at the same time you discover the other person, you discover everybody at the same time. And I saw myself not as someone good, and not as someone who is good or who is bad, not good, not bad. And I understood why I had difficulty in my 16 years, because I tried to be good. I did so my best in practicing to become a good monk. And that is a war, that's a fight, good against bad. You understand?
Yeah.
Good against bad. And so I continue a war without knowing that. And my teacher wanted to help me. He wanted to help me so much for me to understand my true nature, but I couldn't understand. But that night I understood. So I discovered my true self. I am empty of being good and empty of being bad. I am you. And at the same time, I understood the nature of interbeing. In that night, that was in 2010.
Well, that's a great story. Thank you for
Yes.
sharing it. There's a lot there that we could talk about. But I do want to keep going, because we'll come back to that in your book.
Yes.
Before we get to your current book, you were also the author of a book called The Buddha in Jail, and I know you spent some years being a prison chaplain.
Yes.
Can you just briefly tell us about that experience and your previous book?
You know, after the night of 2010, I knew I have discovered something very important. I tried to discover myself, but at that moment I discovered the Buddha too, because your true nature is also the nature of a Buddha, not good, not bad. I didn't understand that before, and so my wife, she encouraged me to go into the prison to help the prisoners, and it was amazing because as a prison chaplain, and I saw a prisoner, and thanks to my insight, I recognize the Buddha in a prisoner, the Buddha, and I saw that he also has the insight and the wisdom of the Buddha, and it's amazing because when you sit like that and you look at the prisoner like that, and you see him as a Buddha, and he can be a Buddha because you believe that, you see that, you know that, and And for the first time, when the prisoner they came to me, and sometimes they didn't even know that I was a Buddhist chaplain, because I remembered was one prisoner. He couldn't make contact with other prisoners in the prison. He was completely isolated by his mind. So they didn't know what to do with him. So they tried to help. So they sent him to me. And in the moment he came, he walked into the room, and I say, wow, you know, I felt his suffering. And I felt his suffering in my body. So that is the nature of inner being. Your suffering is my suffering. So I didn't know what to do. So I said to him, let's sit and let's practice breathing. That's what I learned from my teacher. I said, let's sit down and practice breathing together. And he understood that. And he sat down, he practiced breathing, and for the first time in his life, later on he told me, for the first time in his life, he could go back to his suffering, to his own suffering, because I was there, and I was practicing embracing my suffering as his suffering as my suffering, and he could feel that, and thanks to that, he could go back to his own suffering and make peace with that suffering. And when the moment you can touch your suffering with the wisdom of non-discrimination, suffering is also happiness. That in fact, there is no any separation between suffering and happiness, between you and me, between good and bad, between black and white. You know, now in the US we have problem of you're an Asian and I'm not, you are black, I'm white, but we look exactly the same. We are exactly the same. And so after 20 minutes, I felt a kind of peaceful energy being there in my mind. So I look at him and I smile, and he smiled back. In 20 minutes, he experienced a new discovery, transformation of his suffering, and a discovery of his peace, of his happiness, and the discovery of his true self in 20 minutes. And that happened again and again and again. And so after 6 years being a prison chaplain, and my wife asked me to write a book, and I wrote my experience of discovering Buddhas in the prison. In my book, it calls The Buddha in Jail, The Buddha in Jail, published by OR Books in 2019.
And now we're celebrating the publication of your new book, which is a beautiful book. It's called Wait, A Love Letter to Those in Despair. So how did you come to write this one?
I saw shooting on the news in the US, and I know them. I know that I knew, I have met many killers, rappers in jail in Holland. One time a prisoner came to me and said, Cuong, you are a strange man. And I asked why. You know, those prisoners who are around you, they are they're tough guys. They're killers, rappers, and I don't know how you did that, but they love you. They love you. I've never seen like that before. Why do they love me? Because I can see the true self. I can recognize the wisdom, but I can recognize the happiness. I can recognize the stability. So when I watch the news in the US and I saw the shooters and I recognize the wisdom too. And I say, I'm going to write a book. I want to help you to recognize your own wisdom. And you can do a lot with your wisdom to help yourself, your family, your society, and other people. So I feel it is also my responsibility to share this to the offenders, because we need to help them. When we say you are bad, we're not telling the whole truth. Because their true nature is not bad and not good. That's their true nature. And we need to tell them that, because they may believe that they are bad too. That's not true. Like in my case, I believe that I was bad, I was good, and I was caught in my wrong ideas about myself. My true self is not bad and not good. That's true for every person. And so this book, Wait, is in order to share a kind of insight. It's your insight. It's your insight. And I have a deep wish that this insight will be spread more quickly than the virus COVID-19. That's my dream, and I believe it can be possible, because if you really believe in the other and you say you have wisdom and insight, and he can feel that. So after reading this book, you say, wow, I can recognize my insight, my wisdom. And I recognize your insight, your wisdom, and you tell a friend you're spreading a positive virus.
Very nice. Well, so one of my questions was related to that, is that the subtitle is a love letter to those in despair, but reading this book, there's so much great Buddhist teachings which are relevant to all of us. So, I hope that a lot of people read this, even if they aren't in despair. Maybe it's just how it is marketed, but I think there's so much, especially in the middle and towards the beginning and towards the end, you really focus on those in deep despair. But I think the book has much broader appeal. I found it very helpful and beautifully written. So do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I only discovered my true essence, my true identity, my peace when I was in deep despair. So being in despair is not negative at all. It's not. It's when you are deeply in despair, you are having a chance to discover something very special about yourself. So and in the prison, I have met many people in despair, and I noticed that they understood my teaching quicker than people outside.
Wow.
Because in despair, you are ready to let go of your grasping of good, of bad. If with a good guidance, you can easily let go of your ideas about yourself, and therefore you can discover your true self. And my books are read by many people who are not in despair, but they want to help people in despair. So, and I think the task to give support to guide people in despair is the task of the responsibility of the whole society. So don't wait for you to have to be in despair to read the book. You can read for other people who are in despair, and you know how to help them. So this book is really written for everybody, and I believe that we should read this book, and especially don't wait until you are in deep despair to read this book. And this book is written as a kind of handbook, very small, so you can read it when you need it the most, when you are in despair, and it has short text for you to reread it.
Right, right. Huh. Well, that's interesting, because my next question, you've already kind of answered it and undermined it in a way, because I was thinking that people in despair are often traumatized and kind of walled in their own experience and have trouble hearing from what other people are saying. So I was wondering how we would get this um, get the message from this book to these people, but you've already kind of clarified that question, that they're already open just by the nature of their despair. I still wonder how we can get this book to places that it needs to get to, like in prisons, or even better, to people who are contemplating doing very harmful things to themselves or to other people. Do you have a plan on how to get the book to the right people at the right time? Or
in fact, when I wrote the book, I didn't have a plan to try to have many people to read the book. But for me, it's the most important thing is there, can I through a book, can I share the insight of the Buddha to the reader? And until now, through the feedbacks I receive, I'm very happy. People that can recognize their wisdom by reading the book, and that's what I want. Even because the Buddha was one person, and as a monk, I was looking for the Buddha, because I thought we do need someone like you, a teacher with deep wisdom, Buddha, with peacefulness. I'm searching for you. Who are you? And now finally I found him. He's very much alive. He has a name. It's a different name. His name is Chris Morrow. You are the Buddha. You are the Buddha. And when one person discovers that he is the Buddha, it means a lot for the whole society. So if this book can have one person to recognize that I'm the Buddha, it has done its function, because one Buddha can do a lot. And I believe this book can have many people to recognize that they are Buddhas. And so I have a deep confidence that this book will find its way to the readers. And I have seen that Shambhala Publishing House is doing very well. They have a very wonderful thing.
Oh, that's
So,
good to hear. So as I'm sure you know, just in the last few weeks, we've had a number of mass shootings again
yes,
in the
yes,
United States. Um, you know, it's just unbelievably heartbreaking that this
yes,
continues to go on year after year after year after year. Um, and so, I mean, you talk about this in your book, but maybe you could say a few words now about the nature of our society and how diseased it is, and how our own despair and confusion manifests on a broader level that would kind of enable this kind of violence to happen on a regular basis.
you know, your mind, your mind can be in this situation. Your mind can easily caught by hatred or fear and judgment, and but when you discover your own wisdom, your true wisdom, your true peacefulness, your true compassion, and you never answer to this situation with hatred or fear. You need to tell, especially the shooters, of the ones who want to be to shoot, the one to the ones who want to harm others people out of despair. We need to tell them that how wonderful they are, how beautiful they are, how precious life is, and we need to help each other. We need to support each other. We need to have compassion to each other. And how can I do? What can we do to help you? Instead of you answer back with hatred or from fear. Because I was born in the war, and we were killing each other out of fear and hatred. And I have discovered we have peace and we have compassion, we have insight. Make use of that. But use of that to help each other, and make use of that to love those you cannot love. To love those who are harming you, are trying to harming you. Love them. That is the only way. Love is the only way, not hatred. Love.
So I want to open it up to questions soon. I just want to read one little passage from the book and then have you comment on it. And then we'll open it up to questions. You say, sometimes we feel angry and hurt by others because we won't let anything in that's new. So the pain we feel with them just repeats. We only hear the past until the end of their days. To discover truth, we sometimes need a second opinion. All of us have blind spots. We might need someone else to remind us that our experience, in quotes, is just a photocopy and not reality. We hear sounds, but do we really hear? It might be the recording of a bird song playing in our memory, not the call of the bird on the branch above us right now. It's possible to sit with our loved one and listen without hearing. It's an art to be free of replays and really hear, to be free of living parallel lives. What actually is happening and what our mind filter tells us. We don't have to do anything, we can just focus on our breathing and relax into being completely ourselves. So the book is filled with gems like that. So thank you for writing it. When you hear that, do you hear your teacher, or?
Yes, I hear you. I hear your wisdom, Chris. I hear you. It's not only my book, it's also your book. I hear you. So let us come back to our wisdom. The book is beautiful because it has your wisdom. It's not Cuong Lu's wisdom. You know, I am you. I am you. My deepest wish is I can be in the US now. I want to be there with you. I know it's very difficult in the US now. And here I'm supporting my students, people here too, and I want to be there too. But Chris is there in the US, and please share your wisdom with your friends. They need you, Chris.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah, the COVID has actually had some very positive, interesting side effects in the United States, in terms of people connecting with themselves
Yes.
in ways that they didn't before.
Yes.
People were forced to slow down, were forced to feel the suffering of themselves and others, forced to really confront reality as opposed to illusion, you know? So
Yes.
I'm hopeful that out of this once the disease calms down a bit, that there can be a lot more compassion in our country and around the world.
Certainly. In my book, I have written a chapter called "Suffering is Not a Problem." Suffering is a noble truth, because we have interpreted the Buddha said suffering is noble truth, and sometimes we understood him like suffering is a problem we need to solve, but he clearly says suffering is a noble truth, and I have discovered suffering does not have a cause, and happiness does not have a cause. As a noble truth, suffering, if you look deeply into suffering, you discover happiness. If you look deeply into happiness, you discover suffering. So this is a chance for us to understand deeply our suffering, our happiness, and our interconnectedness in the being, our interbeing nature.
Right.
We are each other. My name is Chris Morrow.
Well, Rachel, do we have some questions from the gallery?
We do. And audience, please feel free to type more questions into the chat box. And a reminder, the book we're discussing is Wait, A Love Letter to Those in Despair, and you can order it at northshire.com. So the first question we have is from Tom. He says, would you say thinking is bad in its own nature? The basic nature of thinking is not bad. How can we relate to it without causing pain to ourselves and others?
Can you help me to understand the question more clearly?
Perhaps, Tom, would you like to unmute and explain it a little further?
This is embarrassing. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Tom. Yes. Thank you.
In the beginning, you said, thank you for your book and for your presentation. In the beginning, you said you were having so much trouble with your thinking.
Yes.
I think in the beginning of your talk. And it inspired me to ask, then, if there is a problem with thinking, that one of our lessons here is there a problem with thinking? you said, oh, I finally stopped thinking. That's what you said. You said I was doing walking meditation and had no thoughts.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that tells us that we should have no thoughts. That's the implication. But I wonder if that's really what you mean, because I still think. And is it bad to do that? Or
No, it's not
if
bad
it
at
isn't,
all.
if it isn't bad, then how do you relate to it? If you would care to address that, I would love to hear.
You know, I said when I practiced with my teacher, and at some point I could stop thinking. I was free from my thinking, but that was not the way. I thought that was the way. So that was not the way, because the way is to understand the true nature of our thinking, to understand it. That's why I'm open an institute. It's called Mind Only Institute, to teach Buddhist psychology, and I will do that in the United States too. I want to help the people to understand the functioning of the mind better. And what is mind? Mind is when you talk about mind, you talk about making separation between good and bad, black and white, and nice, beautiful, and earthly. And once you understand that man only has the capacity to choose an extreme, man only has the capacity to think in dualistic way, you can easily let go of your extreme thinking. And that's very important practice, because when you believe you are bad, that is an idea you can let go. When you believe you are good, that is also an idea that can be a very dangerous idea. When you think I'm good is bad, you can let go. And by understand the nature of mind, you can let go of ideas of your mind, letting go, because your true nature is no good, no bad. And that is you only can practice that deeply when you understand your mind and your thinking clearly. So it's not about stopping your thinking, but to understand the functioning of your thinking, so you don't become a victim of your own thinking. That is the way of no good, no bad, the way of no mind. Sometimes in Zen Buddhism they call that no mind, and I didn't understand that, and now I want to share that practice to other people. It's very nice practice of letting go. Just a clear answer to you, Tom.
Yes, thank you for clarifying. The reason I asked is that many people in the West think that meditation means to not think.
No, I don't believe that.
I understand, and I wanted you to clarify that. So thank you so much. That was lovely. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Another question is, this book is listed in some places as being about suicide. People contemplating suicide or who have already tried it often feel quite blocked and or depressed.
Yes.
How would you suggest approaching such people? Are there any signs to be wary of when presenting that kind of people?
People who want to commit suicide are people who need a lot of love. But when you love, you can love someone with wisdom, or you can love someone without wisdom. So when you love someone with wisdom, it means you don't see any separation between you and the other. When you are able to be there without any separation with the other, you are helping the other a lot, even you don't say anything. That's my experience. Sometimes I don't say anything, and just being there without judging, without discriminating, and with a deep trust in the other person, and you will be able to touch not only the wisdom in you, but you will be able to touch the wisdom in the other person, even you don't say anything. And if a person who is in deep despair, you know, they really needs to be surrounded by people with deep love and deep wisdom, the wisdom of non-discrimination, the wisdom of non-separation, the wisdom of I am you. Your suffering is my suffering. It's okay to suffer, but I am here with you to feel the suffering with you. And I know you also, in your suffering, there is also happiness. The most difficult thing of someone who suffered too much to be free from suffering is to look at the suffering without judging. And when you suffer, you judge your own suffering, and if everybody around you, they are judging your suffering also, you don't have a way out. So you at least you need someone who doesn't judge, who can say it's okay to suffer. I can feel your suffering and understand your suffering. It's okay to suffer, and because I know in your suffering there is happiness, there is insight. At least you had someone like that in your environment, and you have a chance to go out. And this book, the book of Wait, is to do that job, to help you to wake up, to discover your true nature, your true happiness, and your true wisdom.
So one question that was sent to me is, how has this year of COVID impacted your teaching and your life as a teacher?
I have discovered that if you really love someone, that you will feel there is no any separation between you and the other. And my students, they all feel that, they all feel my presence in themselves, like I can feel the presence of my teacher in me. I remember 2 years ago, I went to the US and I gave a talk. And after a talk, a young man came to me and he said, "You are Thich Nhat Hanh." That's true. You know, my name is Chris Morrow. So my name is also Thich Nhat Hanh, and I don't feel any separation between me and my teacher and me and my students. And so we, in the COVID pandemic, we even feel closer to each other. And every week I give teaching through internet, and I have discovered I can feel the feelings when I look at them through the screen. You know why? Because I love them.
That's wonderful. We have a question from Tori asking, you said you discovered your true nature after a time of suffering. Any advice for people who have not been able to make that discovery? If even after reading the book, they have difficulty seeing things without the judgment of good and bad.
So the question is how to help other people to discover I have noticed that I said to Chris when he interviewed me, I said, the moment I discover myself, I discover everybody. So you cannot say that when I make a breakthrough that I discovered my true nature and you don't. You cannot say like that. When I discover my true nature, you also discover your true nature. So the question is, are you going to make use of your wisdom, or you're waiting for something, for any condition because true wisdom, true nature doesn't need any condition. It doesn't have any cause. If it has a separate cause, you don't call it the true nature. You don't call it true wisdom. So I have discovered that wisdom, insight, enlightenment is already there in each of us. And we don't notice that. We don't believe that. We don't. And the moment you believe that, you have that. I don't ask you to believe someone. I ask you to believe yourself. You have that wisdom. You have that insight. You have the compassion. Make use of that to help other people. So one aspect of my sharing is I encourage people to help each other instead of sitting there and practicing until you get enlightenment. You are already enlightened. Make use of your enlightenment to help other people. That's my advice. That's my hope. That's my dream. That's what I'm doing. I want people to leave their cushion, meditation cushion, to go outside to help other people. That's the best way to practice.
You were saying earlier that you were a monk for 16 years, and
yes,
and you were involved in this struggle, and it was only after you gave up that you actually relaxed into this bigger situation, right?
yes.
So do you have any comment on this? A lot of us are engaged in struggle all the time, So what is it about kind of giving up that allows us to relax into a bigger situation?
Because when I practice, I work too much on myself. I want to become better, to get enlightenment, to discover something. But the moment in my deep despair, I could let go all my pride, everything I was proud about, and every idea I had about myself, I could let go of them, of all these ideas. And at that moment, I was able to discover you. I really saw you at the moment. I was free of my self-image. So that's why I don't encourage people to sit on a cushion to practice meditation, to find a peace in yourself or something. Just go out and help people. If you really see the other person, you will see yourself. When you see the enlightenment, the wisdom of the other person, you see your wisdom. When you see the compassion in the other person, you see your own compassion. So that's why our tradition of Thich Nhat Hanh is tradition of engaged Buddhism. You don't find the insight and compassion on your cushion, but on the street, where you can help people, other people. There you can find your wisdom, your enlightenment, and your compassion, and your way to. You are my way. So
don't they work together though? I mean, some people could go out into the world and make a complete mess. If your own mind isn't somewhat stable and relaxed and bright and able to tap into your own compassion, I could see that causing more suffering rather than allowing for wisdom to manifest in the world.
when you help the other person to be happy, you can the happiness of the other is really your happiness. And it's okay when you're not helping in the right way. So try again. Don't give up. Try until you can help the other, and try until you can get touch of wisdom in the other. Don't give up, because as a teacher, sometimes I can help a student. Sometimes I notice I'm not helping him in the best way, so I try in a different way. I never give up, because the freedom of my student is my freedom, and I believe he has that freedom. So I don't give up. I don't withdraw and say now I have to help myself first because I cannot help you. I don't believe in that. I believe, because I've been trying to do that for 16 years. So I have the reason why I don't believe that practice. I believe that once you can help the other, you can help yourself. You only can help yourself when you are able to help the other. Because why? Because the other is yourself. There's no separation.
That idea that we need to keep trying until we can help others is a wonderful, wonderful one. We are sadly just about out of time, but I love the idea of ending on that really wonderful thought. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. Audience, thank you for being here with us tonight. This event has been made special by all of you being with us. Again, the book is Wait, and you can order it at northshire.com. Thank you so much to Cuong Lu and to Chris Morrow, our interviewer, and to all of you for being here tonight.
Thank you very much, Rachel, Chris, everybody. Thank you very much to give me the time to speak with you and to listen to you. I have deep trust, deep confidence in each of you. Please use your wisdom and compassion to help the society. Thank you very much.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.